under 10.5 on the line.
You have to be the biggest, dumbest idiot.
Josh Allen inside the 10, inside 5, touchdown, game over.
Going into the draft, I was a big Penix guy. I'm still a big Penix guy.
Rashee Rice is way ahead of schedule in his ACL rehab, which is good news for his fantasy managers because the Dallas court system is way behind schedule. That's also good news for local comedian Miles Francis. Ho, whoa, whoa. Hello and welcome to What Are We Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him. I'm sitting here with film demon Ryan Perrio, and we are going to go through Ryan Perrio's first ever. It's going to be a mock. It's not real life, so don't panic, Ryan Perrio. But this is your first ever Superflex Dynasty mock draft. You've never done a Dynasty league. You've never done Superflex before.
That's correct. That's why I got my thinking cap on here. We're gonna work through this. Come out hopefully with a solid team. We're gonna take best player available. I'm not gonna.
That's your plan to take best player available?
GM speak. I'm gonna do some classic GM speak. I also gonna try to have a little eye to the future as well. Like also have a little projectability on some of these players.
You got to be like Podesta out there. You got to be like Podesta. You got to have a 5-year plan and a 15-year plan. All right. That's how the big brains over there in Cleveland do it. So we're going to try to be even bigger brains. Try to be even better GMs than Andrew Berry. All right.
How hard can it be?
How hard can it be? Sometimes I play Dynasty and I'm like, man, this really isn't that hard. I can't believe GMs mess it up that bad. So Ryan Perrio, we are going to go ahead and get started. We've got a few live drafters drafting alongside of us, and we got a few bots that will be drafting up against. So Ryan Perrio will be first up on the clock. We got 60-second picks. Josh Allen, Jamar Chase go off the board, which I don't think would happen very often in real life. You go Lamar Jackson. What's your thought process there, Ryan Perrio?
I always try to take a multifaceted quarterback just to kind of get some vulture carries for a running back. Because sometimes Josh Allen would have been my first choice just because I think he's perfectly built for he's never really had a handcuff. Like Baltimore kind of has a handcuff with Derrick Henry for those goal line situations, but Lamar Jackson had the best season, and we're not going to go into postseason. So he had probably one of the best regular seasons a quarterback could have had last year, and I'm hoping he will continue on with that and maybe with some more veteran wide receiver help actually expound upon that.
You play fantasy football in the regular season. That's why we like Baker Mayfield. That's why we like Lamar Jackson. Doesn't get talked about. I mean, I know he won the MVP, so it is what it is, but doesn't get talked about enough about how good Lamar Jackson's season was. I feel like the MVP doesn't give him enough credit for how good he actually truly was. So quarterbacks are still on the board. Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, not my cup of tea. So I think I'm going to go and build around a running back here, drafting from a tough position. If you have a choice to draft in the top 4 picks, I would definitely take that if you have the option. For me, Ryan Perrio sniped me because we didn't want to be next to each other, and he wanted to draft 3. So I'm going to take Jahmyr Gibbs, my guy from the Detroit Lions. Running backs don't last as long in Dynasty, so that's why they're not good, but they're ultra valuable for that reason. So if you're in a win now window, you're going to want those young, rookie-ish, and second-year, third-year running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs going to be running behind a great offensive line again this season, and he's still young. I believe he's 20-something years old, 22 years old, 23 years old. So he's not even close to his prime yet. His prime will hit around 26 years old, and hopefully he can hang on after that. Sounds like he's getting first true bell cow snaps for the first time in his career in Detroit so far in training camp.
It's like JBS is really struggling with his choice here, but as they're getting down. Oh, CeeDee Lamb.
Goes CeeDee Lamb, and he's going to get a quick turnaround, the bend there. He goes St. Brown, CeeDee Lamb.
Ooh.
His first 2 picks.
Stocking up on target monsters.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to get a core member of my team for the next decade or so. That'll be Justin Herbert. When I'm taking these early picks, you can't really necessarily win your dynasty league in these first couple of picks. You can definitely lose your fantasy league in these first couple of picks. So I like going risk averse very early on. And then once we get a little bit deeper in the draft, I'll start hoarding those quarterbacks. Pro tip, if you are starting a super flex league, I would highly recommend you put a cap on the roster limit for your quarterbacks, because if I'm in your league, I'm going to draft 7 quarterbacks in our startup draft, and I will dominate the league because I'll turn all of those quarterbacks into future draft picks and other assets, because there'll be a scarcity in the league, and my team won't look great on paper after the draft, but it sure will in a couple of years. So long shots, he's been doing Dynasty in my Dynasty league for, I think, 4 or 5 seasons now, so he's a little bit of a veteran himself. He goes Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley. I think that's a really, really good team. Ryan Perrio, you got 2 picks coming up. You already made your first one in Amari and Hampton. I'm going to let you think this one through and not try to question you. You've got Lad McConkey, Devon Achane, Drake May, CJ Stroud, Bucky Irving, JSN, AJ Brown on the board to pick from. And you're going to double up on running back. Omari and Hampton and Jonathan Taylor. Go ahead. Take it away, Ryan Perrio.
I like having two bell cows, and I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a renaissance when this quarterback situation that Indianapolis finds themselves in kind of works its way out. It's going to be who can hand off to Jonathan Taylor better at the end of the preseason.
It wasn't too long ago that Jonathan Taylor had that crazy season. I don't even remember what his total yardage was. It was like, I don't even want to say it. What was it, Ryan? Was it like, it was a league-winning season?
It's like 1,800, I would like to say, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
And I think that he had that contract with the late Mr. Irsay. And that kind of, he held out last year, I believe, at the beginning of the year. So I think that kind of hurt his numbers, because he basically took like from week 5 to week 7 to kind of get himself back into regular season shape.
He went for 1,811 on the ground, 18 touchdowns and 40 receptions on top of that. So pretty good. That was in 2021. I get it. It's not 2021 right now, but those are pretty good numbers. Ooh, I've got a fun decision here. So I can go ahead and stack my running back room. Bucky Irving, the number 1 ADP guy on the board. AJ Brown, a little bit older in the tooth, I think 29 years old, going to have a dominant season. Travis Hunter, I wouldn't touch in the first 10 rounds of a startup league. Too risky. Breece Hall, hilarious that he's there. Tet McMillan. I like Tet. Maybe he comes back around and I'll draft Tet and make this team very, very young. But I'm going to take a young rookie running back in Bucky Irving. I don't think he's going to be a one-hit wonder. He doesn't have much running back competition in the room as it is right now, so I expect him to have an even better season because he can hit the ground running. And I believe in his talent. I think he's a superstar running back for the Buccaneers, who I project will be an elite offense again this year. So
I see them going to conference championship with that roster if it stays healthy.
Yeah.
Because you think you got Godwin coming back, you've got Mike Evans there, you've got McMillan, and then you got the young kid, Emeka Ibuka. I mean, there's going to be opportunity.
Oh, yeah. Wow. And so JVS, I'll break a little news here. He goes AJ Brown here. He traded me AJ Brown in this offseason. I was the only one who was interested. He gave me a great deal on it. I don't think I spent up too much. I think it was less than 2 first-round picks. So, yeah, I'm going to take my first running back. I would say would be an extremely risky pick, but getting a top 10 drafted wide receiver on my team as a rookie, obviously very young build with Bucky Irving and Jahmyr Gibbs, Justin Herbert being my oldest player so far. And I'm going to stick with the trend and pick Tet McMillan, 6'4". He's fast, he's strong, he's big, he's talented. He was the first real wide receiver drafted in this draft class. And as my first wide receiver off the board, I am happy to take Tet McMillan for my roster. But Ryan Perrio, honestly, the way this is going for you so far, taking Lamar Jackson, Omari and Hampton, Jonathan Taylor, that is exactly why you want to be drafting in the top 4 draft picks in startup drafts. If you have a choice, if you can cheat, steal, rob, talk to your commissioner, whatever you have to do to get a top 4 pick, or if you can just trade up, if a fantasy manager is like, I don't like a top 4 pick, just trade all of your draft picks, because you should have that option in most dynasty leagues to trade draft picks in the startup draft. Just trade all of your draft picks for all of his draft picks so you can get in that top 4. or do like a 4-for-4 switch your first 4 rounds, whatever it takes. Get yourself up there and get into that top 4 pick, because it is way worth it, as long as it's equitable, back and forth, move up around here and there maybe. But yeah, it must feel pretty sweet having Lamar Jackson, Omarion Hampton, and Jonathan Taylor to build your team around. That's got to feel awesome.
If I'm an OC, I'm running the ball. I am.
Pound the rock. Yeah. I am a big believer in Jonathan Taylor. He's going really early in redrafts as well. And yeah, I think I'm a big believer in him as a big bounce back candidate. They just signed a big giant signing for their left guard, I believe. Just got a big old bag. Ooh, you take Rashee Rice, Ryan Perrio. We'll see if he gets suspended to start this season. You might be playing without your wide receiver 1. And scary Terry McLaurin. 2 guys with somewhat of question marks over their heads looming right now as we're sitting.
But
go
man,
ahead,
did they
take it away.
produce? But man, when they were in, did they produce? Like, they are, if everything happened, I don't know with Rashee Rice if there's going to be discipline. After all, he was down for the year. I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a lot going on with that. There doesn't seem to be a lot of, new things popping up. So I wonder if maybe they will just basically heavily fine him.
Ryan Perrio.
And McLaurin, I think, just had a career year. I think the contract negotiations should go through. I don't think his injury is that serious.
No, I think they're going to figure it out with Terry. He is a touchdown regression candidate. I think that gets talked a little bit too much in the fantasy football community, because he got those touchdowns for a reason. It was Jaden Daniels was the big difference. He probably does that every season of his whole career if Jaden is there with him. Rashee Rice in Dynasty, I really like it as a 4th round pick, because that suspension is the only thing keeping that ADP that low. Like, he'd be going probably 3rd round, 2nd round if you didn't have that legal trouble. I do think he'll be suspended this year, but in a Dynasty league, when we're talking about 5-year, 10-year plans, great pick out of you, Ryan Perrio. I'm going to take Brock Purdy, who I was pumped who fell to me where he fell to me. So I've got Herbert and Brock Purdy, 2 guys on long-term contracts. So whenever I'm talking about a startup Dynasty fantasy football draft, I'm looking for 2 quarterbacks on my roster with long contracts. So if they have those long contracts, they're going to be playing and starting. They're getting paid for it. They're starting for a reason. And you are going to be able to, they're going to maintain their value year after year. And hopefully you put together a couple of big boom years and have yourself a Dynasty championship out of it. So I got Herbert, Purdy, McMillan, Irving, Gibbs. Feeling pretty darn good about where we are sitting right now. A little bit undersized in my running back room, if I'm entirely honest, but I think that's fine. I think that'll be okay. Okay, I'm about to do something a little bit controversial here. As long as JVS doesn't snipe me. He just went quarterback back-to-back picks. And on the turn, we'll see what he does. Does not have a running back yet. He goes running back. RJ Harvey.
Ooh.
Your sweet prince, Ryan Perrio. I think that's a terrible pick. He's going to really struggle winning year 1 with a roster. I would say you got to win early with Trevor Lawrence. He could be benched. I'm going to do something entirely controversial, but it's the right move to do. I'm going to take a 3rd quarterback. I'm going to take Jared Goff here. So now I have 3 starting quarterbacks in my first 6 rounds. So 3 quarterbacks in my first 6 rounds. Roster is not evenly balanced. I haven't even filled a single slot. I haven't filled my 2nd wide receiver yet. But think about it this way. Devontae Smith, Zay Flowers, Emeka Egbuka. Yeah, those guys are great wide receivers. But in all of my Dynasty leagues, I could put Jared Goff up for 2 first rounds and a 2nd round rookie pick, and I would get 3 messages in my inbox immediately for that value. If I put Zay Flowers up for a trade in one of my Dynasty leagues, I'm not going to get 2 first round draft picks for Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play the long game. I'm going to maybe even after this draft, immediately after this draft.
You're handing out your business card. You're handing out your business card to other GMs.
Yeah. I'm gonna go hit the streets and find myself a trading partner, and it'll feel pretty good. You got Dalton Kincaid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. And take Jackson Dart, who we love. We loved his film. I'll let you talk about him in a second because that's a pretty interesting pick. And I've got a pretty interesting pick. I don't think I'm going to go Bryce Young. I think I'm going to build a win now roster, Ryan Perrio.
Okay.
I'm going to build a win now roster.
You see you just open your window.
I see my window open, wide open, and that window opens with Alvin Kamara, my first flex spot. Ooh. So I got Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, Alvin Kamara in my flex. I've got a few tasty rookie wide receivers deeper down in ADP, whom I really love. So I'm not super worried about that at the moment. And I've got just a target hog, a young target hog that if he makes it back around to me, I'm going to fill up my wide receiver room nicely. So TJ Hawkinson, hate that pick, honestly, taking a tight end there. And we're going to come back around to your pick here in a second, but I'm sweating this out, Ryan Perrio. I'm sweating it out. I think I have two picks here that I would like. One's going to be all-time win now and then just quit the league after and just orphan my team is the real strategy that you can do if you're a little bit of a dick. And that's why it's important to find good dynasty managers to join your league.
Shout out to Miles Francis.
Yeah. Really, really thinking this one out. He just took DeAndre Swift. That's a terrible pick. Okay. I'm going to take Jerry Jeudy here. I was deciding between Mike Evans and Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, 26 years old, was on a 1,600-yard pace last year with the Browns. What if Joe Flacco just starts? Seems like that's what's going to happen. 17. Let's be real.
Everybody else is dropping off. Everybody else is getting hurt. Kenny Pickett's
down. It was the draft or the depth chart was Flacco, Pickett, and then the rookies back and forth, whatever. Joe Flacco is going to start. Joe Flacco is going to start 17 games. He's going to be a pocket passer. He's going to get the ball out a lot to David Njoku. He's going to get the ball out a lot to Jerry Jeudy. Hopefully Cedric Tillman, who maybe we'll find later in this draft. Jerry Jeudy was a target hog in the second half of the season. He was on like a crazy pace, like a 17-game pace for like 1,600 yards or something crazy like that. And I think that's just kind of how they're going to roll it back again this year in Cleveland. And I'm going to stop talking now about my great picks once Ryan Perrio makes his final selection here, because we haven't even talked about Kincaid, Dart, Godwin coming off an injury. And you son of a bitch, Ryan Perrio. That's who I wanted to pick. Took Trey Harris. I talk up Trey Harris. I tell you about Trey Harris, Ryan.
I told you about Trey Harris 2 years ago.
You're the film demon. I know.
Like
how excited are you to land Trey Harris in this imaginary fantasy football league? Are you there, Ryan Perrio?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just looking at the board here. It's on James.
Okay, you're locked in. All right, cool. I'll continue to make my picks then. Ooh, got Tua sitting there for me. I don't think I'm going to take a shot on Tua. Jaden Reed, Josh Downs. No thanks. No thanks. Travis Etienne. No thanks. Sam Darnold. Kind of like it. But hey, we're talking dynasty, right? We're talking longevity. I like guys in this kind of later part of the rounds in good situations, long-term contracts, locked in with a great quarterback. And that is the embodiment. That is Khalil Shakir. He is, how old is Khalil Shakir nowadays?
Well, it's like year 4 or year 3, maybe.
Well, he just got re-signed to his second-year contract. Khalil.
Okay, so we're in year 4. So we're in year 4 if they did like an extension or something like that. Because I think his
25.
He was like
25 years old. So yeah, go ahead, Ryan Perrio.
I was gonna say he's probably like this sounds like year 4, year 3 going into year 4. Basically, you usually resign into 1 year left, and he was a target monster for Josh Allen.
Yeah, great offense, touchdown upside built in already. And I'm going to be up again here. So I have a full roster. Now it's kind of looking pretty balanced, even with that Jared Goff pick, right? Because I've got my starting quarterback, my flex, my 2 wide receivers, both wide receiver ones on their team. Khalil Shakir probably going to be wide receiver 1 again this year, was last year. He's got a little bit of competition with some youngins, but I'm not super high on them. And they just signed the guy. What did the team do? They signed him. They talk with their money, not with their whatever. Same thing with Ted McMillan. They talk with their draft capital on him. So really my only win now guy is Alvin Kamara. So maybe I was a little hard on myself. I do have a little bit more of a balanced roster than maybe I was giving myself credit for. A lot of young guys and then Alvin Kamara, which you love to see. You love to see. Tua Tagovailoa slipping pretty far in this draft. I can see why, because I don't want to draft him either. I already have 2 quarterbacks. He could pan out, but I already have quarterback bait. So I'm going to fill my tight end room, like I said, making a balanced lineup here with the Chief. David Njoku should be a good target hog out there. And with the way this thing has fallen, Ryan Perrio, the first thing I'm thinking of is I'm probably with my last pick going to take Joe Flacco. This is also probably a good time to talk about your taxi squad. If you don't know what a taxi squad is basically your practice squad. You have eligible players that can put in your taxi squad. For example, it's usually rookies. Sometimes it'll be the first 2 years, whatever. Let's say it's rookies only. So that's almost like an extra IR slot if you think about it. The catch is in most leagues, if you take your player out of your taxi squad, you can't put them back into Pandora's box. Once they're out of Pandora's box, they take up a roster spot, but you can't start them until they're out of your practice squad. So it's a pretty good strategy to keep in these startup drafts at least 4 rookies on your team, because if you get those 4 rookies on your team, that expands your roster spot. So I can, after the draft, load them into my taxi squad and then pick up whatever individual defensive players, which we're not doing in this draft, but individual defensive players, old quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks are 3 of the most valuable things to kind of hold on to in Dynasty. So you're filling up your tight end room, taking a big swing on Terrence Ferguson, rookie, right? I believe Ryan Perrio. And wow, taking a big upside swing at Jalen Milroe. Whoa, Ryan Perrio, what's your take on Jalen?
Eyes on the future. Like once Lamar Jackson's kind of aged out, try to look eye to the future and see if maybe Seattle has their version of Lamar Jackson come 2 years from now when Jalen Milroe's been sitting on the bench and absorbing like a sponge all this information.
Okay, I am no longer going to let Tua slip into the 11th round, because if Tua just stays healthy, if he just lucks his way into 17 games this season, we all know it's going to be awesome. We all know Waddle's going to be awesome. Tyreek Hill's probably going to be great. Achan's probably going to be great. Maybe someone else in the running back room will step up. Maybe, what's his name? Oh, I lost his name. Who's the guy from Tennessee that he's got a 3 name? Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Maybe Nick Westbrook-Ikhine just becomes the next Tyreek Hill that we expect. He got 9 touchdowns last year for Tennessee.
9 touchdowns, what, 20 receptions? Yeah, 20 receptions, 9 touchdowns.
3 of them for 100 yards. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine could just be that guy, especially if Tyreek or Waddle go down. I know they just get rid of Jonnu, but hey, if Tua just put 17 games together, guess what? I'm putting them up on my trading blocks, and I'm taking the first guy who offers me 2 rookie first for him. And that's how you build a dynasty team, is you hoard quarterbacks. And that's why you can't let them fall into the 11th round like that. Oh, and I have 19 seconds left to pick. I'm not going to take. Oh, yeah. Lock it in. Kyle Williams doesn't even have an avatar yet on Sleeper. Come on, Sleeper. What are we doing here? Kyle Williams, everybody knows he is the heir apparent to Stephon Diggs. Stephon will probably be the wide receiver 1 there. Would you agree, Ryan Perrio in New England week 1?
Well, depending on what those drugs in that Ziploc bag were.
I don't think they're even an issue, Ryan Perrio. I think those things are a story for the past. I get Kyle Williams, a stud. He was like the darling for a lot of people. Like, wasn't getting enough hype. I think Mike Renner on Twitter got in his soapbox and was like, "Yo, you guys got to start talking about Kyle Williams. This guy rules. Had a great combine, way under the radar. Patriots make a great move and draft him in the 3rd round. Sounds like he'll be the number 2 there on day 1 and work himself into a starting role there." So a very young team outside of my quarterbacks and Alvin Kamara. I love the way this build is going. Whenever I get to a mock draft like this at the end of it, I'm like, man, let's just make this a real league. Why don't we?
Yeah.
Ryan Perrio, you have selected Rashid Shaheed. A lot of injury concerns out of him, but still young. His whole life ahead of him. He's going to be in a tough offense to start this year, but really feels like to me, outside of like your Hampton pick, your Trey Harris pick, that you're sort of building for the future. You're kind of also on the 5-year plan and not necessarily a 3-year plan.
Correct. Like if everything breaks right, it could be a great year. But at the same time, I want to compete for not just today, but also tomorrow.
So you really got to scroll down on this sleeper platform. This ADP is not very sharp yet. Tank Bigsby still sitting there for me at 157. I think he's 24 years old. He is reported to be either the 1 or the 1A, worst case scenario, 1B in Jacksonville right now. Bashul Tutin is Kamani Vidal of this season. He's not going to be relevant unless both of them go down. Tank Bigsby, and then he'll catch one wheel route for 75 yards. Everyone will cash their receipts in, and he'll never see the football field ever again. Anyways, Tank Bigsby is an absolute freak out of college. I think we all loved watching him run the football. We all were really excited. He had a little bit of disappointment, had a little bit of trouble with the dropsies early in his career, but by all reports, hey, this new coaching staff didn't see that. This new coaching staff wasn't there, didn't see that. Maybe they've seen the film, maybe they haven't, but I think he'll be the number one there. If not this year, next year for sure. So I've got Gibbs, Irving, Kamara, and Bigsby all in my running back room, which sounds pretty good to me. I kind of wish, looking back at it, Alvin Kamara is my biggest regret, but he'll help me. He'll help me be a win now candidate instead of win in the future. And I'm going to be up here in a second. And I think what I'm going to do at this point is just hit my rookies only button on my screen, which is pretty handy sometimes. You can really find some diamonds in the rough if you really, really scroll down. So I'm going to go ahead and take, this is a good decision out of me, Arroyo, pretty buried down in the tight end.
He's been having a great camp.
He's been having a great camp. They already cut Noah Fant after watching him in rookie minicamp. So that's a good sign. Like I said, watch what the teams do with their money, not necessarily what they say into microphones, especially certain coaches. We don't have a really good read on the Seattle Seahawks coach yet, but we'll see how honest he is. But yeah, he'll be a nice backup for me and a guy I theoretically could stash in my taxi squad. In fact, I definitely would. I would start David Njoku day one. In this smaller league, we're only doing 14 rounds, so maybe we'll take a couple scrolls down, Ryan Perrio, when we're all said and done, after we're done recapping your team, and see if we can find some diamonds in the rough that you can find deeper in these dynasty drafts. Like Woody Marks, that's a great one to start talking about, Ryan Perrio.
I believe he's our version of Kyron Williams, as with Rams, as we kind of adopt to the Rams offense. He kind of reminds me of Kyron Williams. Like, he doesn't have games where he houses every run, but he has big little rips of 20 to 50. He always gets caught, but he gets a large chunk. And that kind of reminds me of Kyron Williams and kind of how the Rams like to run the ball with that running back that's maybe not the largest, but has that outside burst and versatility to catch the ball.
Hell yeah, Ryan Perrio. And with, like you said, Joe Mixon going down, bad foot injury sounds really bad. I wouldn't touch Joe Mixon with a 10-foot pole. I don't think he really fell this far in this draft that we just had. But yeah, I wouldn't be super excited about Joe Mixon. Obviously, Nick Chubb is aging, but I think Nick Chubb's going to be really good this year. So he'd be a guy who we didn't draft, I don't think, in this draft, who I would scroll down and go ahead and pick. Let's review your team, Ryan Perrio. So we'll start with your quarterback room. You've got Lamar Jackson, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe. So you are definitely not win now, I would say, Ryan Perrio, with this build, because you do not have a week one super flex starting quarterback. Unless you want to, you give me old Ringling and I'll give you Tua Tagovailoa for that Trey Harris pick, Ryan Perrio. What do you say?
I'll think about it. That's a good.
Sounds pretty good the way I say it like that, right? So yeah, that's a good example of why it's pretty valuable to pick those falling quarterbacks that nobody else wants. because Tua starting day one, a guy like Ryan Perrio or somebody else might think to themselves like, oh, I'll give you Trey Harris for Tua Tagovailoa in a second round rookie pick. And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. I love Trey Harris.
Yeah.
A lot of upside. I don't need him. He's my fourth quarterback on my team. So that's a good reason, but you're definitely playing for the future, like you said. And you should be fine. Like hopefully once Lamar Jackson has his bye week, you can slot in Jackson Dart, because I don't know if you've seen the Giants opening like 4-game schedule. They're running through
Murderers Row.
Oh my gosh. They are sending out Russell Wilson pigs to the slaughter. It's going to be pretty gnarly for the Giants. They're not going to play. They're not going to get off to a pretty hot start. You know how Rich Eisen does every year? He does he gets like real fans to call in and be like, we're going to go through game by game. We're going to predict every game for your favorite team season. The Giants fan called in. And of course, when anybody calls in, everybody's team goes 15-2. Like, it's just like a thing that always happens. Giant fan called in. They went 2-15 based off of what with a win over the Saints or something crazy. I don't know. It was pretty entertaining the way his draft went. So you have 2 rookie quarterbacks. So, Ryan Perry, like we said earlier, you can slide both of those rookie quarterbacks into your theoretical taxi squad and pick up Joe Flacco or someone like that. So you'll have 2 starting quarterbacks there. So you don't have too much to worry about. Your running back room is awesome. Amari Hampton, Jonathan Taylor. And hey, Jonathan Taylor just might be a demon this year again. And I think we all know Amari Hampton's going to be Amari Hampton this year in the NFL. So that's good news. Rashee Rice, Terry McLaurin. You could, if Rice is out, you could have a rough start to this season, especially if it takes a few weeks for Trey Harris to come on. Kincaid, I love Kincaid, especially in Dynasty. I think Kincaid is probably one of my favorite buys. Buy low right now.
I think he kind of just had a moment that just kind of everything was just chaos, and I don't put the drop a lot of. I mean, there is some he is at some fault, but I was like, that was just a really just tough spot to have your game on the line. Kind of a tough play where it just kind of nothing went really right on that play, because I think Allen scrambled, he put it there, but I think the tight end just, like I said, he was already kind of going to the ground, and I don't think he had his feet to really secure that catch. But I think, that builds a character and motivation, and I think he's going to be on the rise. As really, they didn't address, they didn't get an elite weapon at wide receiver.
Yeah, and look, he's 25 years old, which usually, I know the last couple of years we've had crazy tight end luck as rookies with Laporta and then with Bowers, obviously. But Dalton Kincaid, 25, that's usually when these tight ends kind of start coming on. I'll share his little profile here with y'all. And yeah, first season, not that bad. He had an injury as well in 2024, so those numbers aren't going to look as good as they should if he actually played out his full 17-game season. I don't think he's injury prone. I think he's a great buy low candidate right now. Go give somebody a 3rd-round pick who has a healthy tight end room, and I think both of you will be happy with walking away with what you got. Your wide receiver room: Rashee Rice, Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, Trey Harris, Rashid Shaheed, Jalen Noel. Any last words on Jalen Noel to fill out your roster?
He's my taxi squad, but I see him overtaking Christian Kirk as the number 3. I think Christian Kirk will kind of do what Robert Woods was last year, which is kind of be that inside number 4 receiver that just kind of gets lost in all the athleticism, just kind of the old man that just kind of finds an open spot in the zone. So he may steal some targets, but I think Jalen Noel will eventually usurp Christian Kirk sooner rather than later.
I agree. Or an injury, or just an injury could get Noel on. It would probably have to be an injury to Kirk because Noel was like all-time slot, and Higgins, his teammate who's also on the team, was all-time X receiver, which is interesting, especially in college nowadays. That's usually not the case. They usually move the guys around. Not in Iowa State. They stayed put. Maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe we're to find that out.
Like I say, he's one of the most explosive, like in and out of his breaks, like as far as receivers go. Like he doesn't give you any chance to kind of catch back up if you're a corner. Like once he makes that break, he's at full speed again, like that. And so I was just really impressed with him. I thought, when Tank dealt with the Tank injury, this team needed an infusion of speed at some of the skill positions, at running back, at wide receiver, and hopefully at tight end when Brevin Jordan gets out of injury, that he will be kind of that speed threat at tight end.
Oh yeah.
And so
let's go over my team here. I got in my quarterback room, stacked quarterback room, Justin Herbert, Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa, all of them except for Tua under long-term contracts locked into their team for the next decade or so, which is nice in Dynasty fantasy football. I've got Tua as kind of my long shot, hopeful that I wouldn't even call it a long shot, Tua. I mean, he's had great seasons when he stays healthy. He just never stays healthy. Yeah, I guess he didn't wrestle again this offseason, which I was like, that's why I was all in on him last season, as he wrestled in the offseason, and now he's kind of not wrestling again. Don't know what that's about.
You were all in until he led with his head on that quarterback run and just got clobbered.
Well, I mean, whatever. Whatever, dude. Anyways.
I admire the passion, but it's like you have to look at the long term too. You can't. 5 yards isn't worth a career.
Yep, and he's on my Dynasty roster now, so play nice, Tua. I'll tell you, I believe more in Tua than I do Anthony Richardson, who went right for him in that pick. So yeah, I'm looking to like you said, Ryan Perrio, to pass out some cards, maybe to Team 11 here, who's got Patrick Mahomes, JJ McCarthy. Let's say JJ McCarthy doesn't really pan out, or he wants some depth at the quarterback position. Maybe Tyrone Tracy, Isaiah Pacheco, DK Metcalf have a good opening to the season. Maybe I'm sending them a cheeky little offer to Tua Tagovailoa for DK straight up. Maybe he takes it if Tua stays healthy for the first couple of games. You lose that kind of fear. Or I take Brock Purdy, Jared Goff, have a good start to the season, and I turn them around for a great young wide receiver who's breaking out. So that's really the long and the short of it. Is in Dynasty Superflex and regular redraft Superflex, quarterbacks are ultra valuable. In Dynasty redraft leagues, the quarterbacks with the long contracts and stable positions on good teams are so valuable. And I like guys in redraft like Drake May, Bo Nix, but in Dynasty, am I gonna make a premium pick on him, on a Bo Nix, or so let's see, Bo Nix or Nico Collins? like that's who you took. You took Bo Nix at 301, and you passed on Nico Collins. You passed on Ladd McConkey. You passed on JSN. So yeah, Bo Nix will be really valuable if he does pan out and he does kind of stay mobile and it all works out. But I don't know. He doesn't have a long-term contract. Second year, sometimes you have a sophomore slump as a rookie quarterback and you never get it back. So not a stable position for him. I really like Nico. I mean, obviously you took Jonathan Taylor, Ladd McConkey, JSN. I would say there's probably a stronger likelihood that Ladd McConkey has a longer career than Bo Nix. Math.
I just think Bo Nix is going to have a little bit of regression now that teams have had a year to scout him.
Sophomore slump happens to everybody.
Sophomore slump. Not only that, it's just you're also going to be playing tougher opponents now that you're a playoff team. Last year, your schedule strength is now up twofold instead of being the lowest, I think, or second lowest in your division. You're now playing the second and division leaders of your conference, and your schedule. It's going to be a tougher road.
Okay. I found my trade partner. Team 4 has Caleb Williams and Justin Fields.
Hello again.
think there's a pretty good chance that at least one of them doesn't work out for all 17 games this season. I don't know. Just guessing here, just reading some tea leaves. Maybe not the most stable footing to bank your whole dynasty roster off of. Although, to his credit, Justin Jefferson, Lad McConkey, T. Higgins, got to feel pretty good about that. This is a bot, too, so you can't make fun of him too much. Took Quinshon Judkins at 504. Just a general PSA, don't draft Quinshon Judkins, like in anything right now. He's not signing with the team. Okay? So if you think you're signing somebody who's going to get suspended for the first 4 games of the season, and that'll be it, he's not currently signed with the team. If he signs with the team, if he gets levied a suspension, if Coach Stefanski gets out there and is like, "Hey, we love Ohio State. That's why we drafted him." Right? Cleveland, Ohio football fans, right? We
Coach
like
Stefanski
this guy.
is like, we're geniuses here in the Stefanski coaching room.
We're so smart and handsome.
We can do this. We can do this.
So until that happens, do not under any circumstances, with any sort of whatever, any capital, don't draft Quinshon Judkins. Draft anybody else. Quinshon Judkins or Christian McCaffrey. That's who we're talking about, who went next to each other. I don't know. Call me crazy. Give me Christian McCaffrey, who could just, look at this guy's team. Talk about win now, long shots. This is the guy who I told you was really, really sharp. Jaden Daniels, Saquon Barkley, JSN, Dak Prescott, Christian McCaffrey, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Higgins, Sutton, Besh. Talk about a win now team. If you saw that at the end of your redraft league, you'd be like, oh my Lord, we've got a good super flex team. But anyways, so that's my quarterback room. My running back room is Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, Alvin Kamara, Tank Bigsby. Feel extremely good about that. Tet McMillan, Jerry Jeudy, Khalil Shakir, and Kyle freaking Williams to round out my wide receiver room. All guys who project to be wide receiver ones on their team, other than Kyle Williams, who I got in the 12th round. Got to feel good about that. David Njoku, who should be the target hawk there. I think Harold Fannin went undrafted, so I would slide Arroyo into my taxi squad and go ahead and take the heir apparent David Njoku, basically the clone of David Njoku, who is now on the team over there in Harold Fannin. So yeah, I like how it goes. This has gone 42 minutes, which is a pretty good period of time, Ryan Perrio. So we did promise a deep late round value for Dynasty Superflex. So let's make that a separate video. We'll go and find guys like whatever it is. What's 14 times 12? There's no way. 14 times 12 is 168. So we're going to find guys outside of the top 150.
Okay.
Who will be values in your Dynasty Superflex league. So that'll be the next video. We still got a lot more coming. I enjoyed this one. This is my favorite video to do every year. I think this is the 3rd year doing it. Dynasty Superflex. We talked about last year. We warned you about Anthony Richardson. Do not draft him at 112 overall in your Superflex Dynasty Fantasy Football leagues. Feel pretty good about that one. So we'll see you next time for more Dynasty content. And otherwise, for Ryan Perrio, thank you and good night.